So the season is behind us.
Boo.
Dane.
The fantasy season.
Yeah. Well,
Although all of our
regular
teams.
season teams
It's
too.
over.
Yeah, that's true.
But Dane pulled off the win.
Congrats.
He
Like
did.
we projected.
Yeah.
Totally.
We predicted at the beginning of the season, and going into the playoffs, we're like, and then he still ended up winning, yeah.
The Saquon Barkley thing, no one wanted it to work for him, but it worked in the perfect moment.
Barkley had such a great playoffs,
Yes.
like for fantasy. I mean, yeah, I think he won a bunch of people leagues that if they made the playoffs with Saquon, he paid off.
He'll be interesting in the future, though, to see what they get out of him.
Yeah, especially with the coaching change too. Yeah,
If somebody hadn't traded him a costly Derrick Henry, he probably wouldn't have been there.
you're probably right. You're probably
Probably right.
And that was this like the least trade that he'd gotten that I was like, yeah, that's cool, but whatever. Like, I was more mad about like Julio Jones and AJ Green. I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna be unstoppable. And then Derrick Henry ends up being, I mean, he led the league in rushing yards this year.
Yep.
He got a lot out of, who he did make moves. Like Carson Wentz went down, but he had gotten enough out of him.
Yeah,
Didn't he start Ryan Fitzpatrick in
he
the
did do
playoffs?
Fitzmagic.
Yeah.
Some
He
Fitzmagic.
outscored me. I lost points. I had Patrick Mahomes. He had Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I think I lost points on that matchup.
that's fantasy, man.
And
That's
I
how
was
it goes
like-
sometimes.
And I ended up losing, and I was like, yeah, if you're going to trade points there, I was like, that's where I should be gaining points. And
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of the way fantasy playoffs work, though. I mean,
Yeah.
you get there, and then you just hope for the best. And
But that's the thing is congrats. That's it's great. It makes a lot of sense. We thought his team for sure would win one of these years, if not a dynasty. Going forward, it'll be interesting. His team has some question marks and some age now.
and his tank season to get Saquon apparently paid off.
And no draft picks.
Oh, he's out, isn't he?
Yeah, he's tapped out.
Interesting,
He's
yeah.
tapped out. Also, who is tapped out of the league now? AJ's out, and we insert Pete Schramm. He's played in some other leagues before. He'll be pretty active. So
Good dude.
He's
everybody, feel free to reach out to him. And say
and
hi.
he is prime for fleecing because he's terrible at fantasy. I'm just kidding.
if there's anything left on that team to fleece out after Ross got done with him,
AJ Brown.
I feel like everybody's going to try and get AJ.
There is
now.
we needed this senior citizen circuit in order to move on with our dynasty leagues, and Pete Schramm filled the void, and the veteran, so we have that veteran status within
That's
our
true.
organization
There you go.
now too.
There you
so
go.
taking care of the military.
that's a good ad though. I like.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's a
Pete
great
will
ad.
be good.
Yeah, it'll take some time to rebuild that roster, but
He's got
I think
some pieces. He's got some
yeah,
pieces.
you get some draft picks, you get some pieces, and it'll be okay.
So we'll get into some of the teams afterwards, but we do have some hot news that did happen recently with the head coach hirings. Little controversy. You have Matt Rule out in Carolina. You also have Joe Judge. Is it Joe? Is
Yes,
his first name
Joe
Joe?
Judge.
Because I don't think anybody knows his first name.
Joe Judge.
Okay.
He was a Patriots coach. You should know who
Judge
he is.
Joe Brown.
Yeah, he was
Judge Joe
up
Yeah.
there on the coaching staff.
Well, so
Do you
who?
realize on the Patriots staff they didn't know who was calling the defensive plays halfway through the season? That coaching staff is nothing but Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
yeah.
So who are the teams that fired coaches going
Okay,
in?
so you had Giants, Carolina,
Cleveland.
Dallas,
Yep.
and then Cleveland, and then who's the last one?
I totally forgot who you were saying when you paused it.
Washington.
Yes.
Yes.
Washington
Washington
hired Rivera.
filled fast.
I actually liked the Rivera hiring. That was. I'm not saying I love Ron Rivera, but for what Washington was before.
Do you think he was the top coach available?
No.
No.
But
Here's the thing. That depends, in my opinion, on how you judge the coach, the situation. I do think he was the top coach available if you had a very formulaic, rigid structure of proven track record, that like all these like things that you could measure. I think Ron Rivera and Mike McCarthy were technically the best hires.
Okay.
top 5 candidates, in my opinion.
I think like Joe Judge, for instance, he wouldn't even be in the top 100 of that list.
Right.
But Jim had mentioned it before we went on air. It's a high risk, high reward pick. You don't always pick your head coach by formulaic. This is how it's going to be, because every time you do that, you end up with somebody that's just
Yeah.
Okay.
And 3 Super Bowls,
Yeah.
2 BCS championships for Joe Judge.
yeah. So
Quietly, you know.
you're looking for a lot of these. Same thing with Rule is it's nothing really tried and true. There's nothing there. You're looking at a guy who you're hoping is a leader of men and can turn stuff around, but you only really have 2 years of reference
And they hired him for a 7-year contract. So that is very risky in that regard, because if he's not working after 3 years, Carolina might just be shooting themselves in the foot if he's not working out.
NFL is a bit, they're big billion-dollar corporations. You can buy out those contracts for the most part. But, it's a long time. I think what it does do is it hurts the market going forward. The Browns are the only teams left without a coach. They're going to
pay 8 years for somebody, probably.
Depending on who you get, especially if it's somebody with even a better resume than Rule, because you could find it.
And Rule doesn't have that big of a
resume.
resume.
That's what I mean, is if it's somebody...
Temple and Baylor?
If it's somebody like Josh McDaniels or even Eric Bieniemy, they're going to be able to command more money than that $70 million. So
and that might be the new thing going forward with coaches, is that it's no longer these 3-year, 4-year contracts. It's these big contracts to draw those top talent.
That's the thing that's kind of harsh, is college...
They get paid.
They get paid more. Yeah. It is... But it's also it sounds ridiculous. It is a much harder job. College
in the off season,
you are on 100% of the time. NFL, you coach, and they say, year-long job, but you coach, and then you have some time off before you got to prep for next season. College, you're recruiting, you're always under the gun.
Well, there's a salary cap, which
you have to cheat aggressively under NCAA regulations, so that's always tough.
There should have been a lot more opportunities for teams to hire a head coach position. I think the Joe Judge one, like, as a Pats fan, I knew who he was, but not really. And he was like, I don't like somebody becoming head coach that hasn't been an offensive or defensive coordinator. With a team in their past 7 years.
Yeah, and I especially hate that they're signing all these coaches. The season's not even over yet. Like, there's coaches that could be getting these jobs that are just actively playing and preparing for weeks they can't take interviews.
It's like
because of this.
It's like dominoes. The second one person goes, you feel like you have to get your guy. And Washington went so early that teams went and jumped. The funny thing is, going into the coaching hire, the 3 coaches who I would have thought would have been hot take candidates, like the hot candidates to get, none of them have been hired. I personally would have thought Urban Meyer, Lincoln Riley, and Eric Bieniemy would have been the 3 coaches that would have gotten jobs this year. And apparently only one of them is going to get a job.
Is Urban Meyer just...
Urban Meyer said he was open to coaching in the NFL.
Maybe he...
I think he was potentially commanding so much money.
Maybe
that teams didn't think it was worth it.
Just seems
odd.
Mean,
Eric Bieniemy, I know he's not the play caller in Kansas City, but Joe Judge wasn't the play caller of anything.
Yeah, that hire does surprise me.
I think people want to compare it. We were talking a little bit. People want to compare that to Harbaugh and Tomlin and these coaches that came out of nowhere. I don't think it's a fair comparison, because Harbaugh and Tomlin both had A, more years, and B, had way more
credentials.
And gravitas and like name recognition and credibility. Joe Judge did not. So it's a high risk, high reward pick. You're hoping you're going to get those 2 guys. You hope you don't get,
There's too much weight on the Belichick tree. Like,
totally.
Even forget that the failure rate of coaches coming from the tree, just to try and get your system revamped based off of like, whatever Belichick said is it's gonna spray off on these guys and they're gonna use in their organization. It doesn't make sense anymore. Like, this is too late in that process to, like, you need to do something new and different.
One of the challenging things I have with the entire coaching cycle is that if you make the playoffs and you go deep in the playoffs, or yes, if you do have a first round bye in the playoffs, you can interview with teams during that first round bye. But it's almost like if you're one of those teams that go deep in the playoffs, you're not going to get that fair shake through the interview process, that you have to wait. And that's, a lot of that times can be based on the decision, of course, of who it is, like.
And there's one job that's open now.
Yeah.
Down to one.
So this one cracked me up. Trev, you'll want to comment on this. The Browns interviewed Jim Schwartz, the Eagles D coordinator.
Right.
Would that not be the most Browns hire of all time? Like, he was a terrible coach. Like,
and I have a problem.
He's already
with
tried.
Previous head
Harrington.
coaches, even being a McDaniels fan, even though a lot of people aren't, I don't know if I would want to hire him as head coach because of how he failed in the past.
I totally agree with you. It's one of those things, and I think I use the term romanticize. I think we romanticize stats, and like the Cowboys, my team. Mike McCarthy, his record total is like 130 and 77. And it's really a good looking record. He had Aaron Rodgers, and most years barely made it in the playoffs. That's more of a problem.
Yeah.
One Super Bowl is what I'm looking at there with Aaron Rodgers in his prime.
Yeah. And
So, like Ron Rivera, and I go, Ron Rivera, had Cam Newton, but never really had a quarterback, and his record's a little bit above 500. I like him more. There's a reason I like him more than, and he had glowing Ron Rivera. I don't know if you heard the recommendations from his ex-players. They're all like, it's crazy. Go
They're
look
on
at
board with him.
look at the
He
interview.
respects his players.
Go look at the interview of Gerald McCoy in the locker room when he finds out that Ron Rivera's leaving to go. That when he got fired, he's going to Washington.
yeah.
Gerald McCoy, it's incredible. He's like, they're getting the greatest coach of all time. He's like, it's not
crazy.
just coach. He's a great leader of men. He's a great man. Like, that's what you want. Nobody on those old Green Bay teams is like, yo, Mike McCarthy's awesome. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
LaFleur came in and just everything looks great with LaFleur.
And that's the biggest thing to me. Like that's the most biggest point is that they last year they had Mike McCarthy. They didn't make the playoffs. This year they're a number 1 seed with a different coach.
Right.
I mean, the team really didn't change that much. I think their defense changed a little bit, but like other than that, the only thing that changes was the coach. And Aaron Rodgers got a year older, so you would think that he'd play worse.
What was the main issues of McCarthy getting fired in the first place? The bland play calling that they were highlighting throughout his entire later tenure.
Aaron Rodgers didn't like him.
Aaron Rodgers didn't like him as well, of course.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you're evaluating that team and you bring in Matt LaFleur, who was the Titans offensive coordinator previously, who really didn't do much with Marcus Mariota in that offense in that one season, and for him to get automatically elevated, to that stature of a head coach, and a lot of people, it's like we're looking for that next hot young head coaching candidate and such. It was really an odd hire at the time, but it also now that you see how Green Bay's the 2 seed in the playoffs, first round bye in LaFleur's first year, that doesn't really speak well to McCarthy and what he had available to him at the time and his potential innovative play calling as well.
no, it's a good point. And he also didn't get a job last year. Like, he said he was at his house. He said, what was it? He was practicing being a coach. Like, he had a fake staff. Like, he had hired people to, like, he clearly wanted to
this
coach.
real?
Dead serious.
Oh my god.
That's so
I'm
weird.
dead serious. You didn't hear this? He said he was practicing all year at getting better at being a coach.
This is like some king of comedy thing.
It's crazy. I'm
McCarthy?
telling you.
Did
yes.
he have a chalkboard in those like wrestling buddies from the 1990s
But
that
that's
he
the
had
thing.
in chairs and stuff?
It was the Mean Street Posse.
He clearly wanted to be a coach, but I don't think anybody wanted him to be a coach. And I think it was
Jerry Jones.
and I think, and this gets into the bigger issue with the Cowboys, is I think the whole thing is because if they end up winning a Super Bowl, Mike McCarthy's not going to get any
happen.
credit.
No.
And
Not
gonna
I'm not saying it's going to.
Yeah.
But from the way Jerry Jones looks at things, that's what he's thinking. He's thinking, well, if we win a Super Bowl, or he's probably thinking, when we win a Super Bowl, I'm going to get all the credit because Mike McCarthy's not going to get any credit.
Yeah.
Quick side note: has any coach ever in history been like such a terrible offensive play caller that they're like, okay, I'm gonna step back and somebody else is gonna take over, and then it worked out good and that coach didn't get fired like a year or two later?
Yeah, no.
I don't think so. Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing too is Jason Garrett is just, he sat on every level. Did you see the story? He wouldn't leave. Like, he was trying to get his job back.
Yeah.
He was basically outside.
That's
the
why they
facility
kept on
coming
having
in.
those. Yeah.
They kept having like interviews and like commentary because he refused to like give up. Like, he just wanted the job back so bad. Dude, oh my gosh. Like, they said all that. I had said a couple times to my dad, oh, he's going to be a front office hire. They're trying to figure out where they can put him within the franchise. They said it was never an option. It was just him. It was just them trying to be like, we're going to move on. And
I was hoping so badly the Giants would take him as their coach.
I think he'll be the Giants' offensive coordinator.
I think so too. But that's an okay role for him.
I
But
thought
I was
Lincoln
hoping so bad.
I thought Lincoln Riley was gonna go to the Cowboys.
I hoped it was Urban Meyer because of the Zeke connection and getting back to Zeke. I think the Cowboys are. I actually think the Cowboys have now. I think Jason Garrett was terrible. I think the best coaches on their staff were Rod Marinelli and Chris Richard,
And they're both gone.
and they're gone. And someone's going to get Chris Richard as a defensive coordinator, whatever team it is.
Yeah.
Congrats on you guys. Yeah, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
The Colts need a new defense. Chris Richard is an awesome coach.
Yeah.
He will be an awesome head coach someday. I guarantee it. And he is an awesome defensive coordinator already. So it's just one of those things where, and they made Nolan their defensive coordinator. It's like, really things are going to get better.
Oklahoma State, right? That's where he was.
It's like, really things are going to get better. I mean, if you go through the coaching hires one at a time, I mean, it's pretty. I mean, I think we can all agree. Rule is, despite the contract, I think Rule's a good hire.
He has
Right.
upside. He has upside.
Ron
Yeah.
Rivera is a good hire, right?
Yeah.
Joe Judge is a high reward, high risk, high reward guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the worst signing.
But
Agreed.
you understand
Yeah.
what the Giants are doing because they hired offensive coordinators for 2 years and had no direction on defense, and they're basically hiring a head coach.
So when
with a
Joe
ton of-
Judge doesn't work out, Saquon Barkley will probably be gone too.
Here, Saquon Barkley never be gone. So real quick, so then out of those, and let's just assume the Browns hire anybody other than Jim Schwartz because that would just make it easily the worst. You got to
Marvin
assume
Lewis.
you got to
Gunnar
assume the
Shard can
Cowboys.
come and be defensive coordinator
What-
for the Eagles.
The other thing that kills me at the Giants is you immediately go, okay, so the Cowboys had probably like the worst hire. Would we all kind of agree? At least in the vicinity of the worst hire. They only interviewed one person, so they interviewed a terrible.
No, they interviewed 2 people. They also interviewed
Yes.
Marvin Lewis.
They interviewed. We're not going to get into the politics of the Rooney Rule, but yes, they did hire one other person.
I think the Joe Judge hire is worse just because that was. I mean, maybe it's not worse from my perspective, but from a coaching perspective and from an organization perspective, they had guys that they wanted, and Joe Judge was not on their list
Yeah.
at all, and they're like, "Oops, I guess this is who we're getting."
Yeah, I mean, they clearly, I think they wanted Rule, and
Yeah.
they had to figure something else.
Who they could
The
have gotten.
one
They just had
thing
to pay him.
about Dallas too is, and I don't want to spend all the time in Dallas. It's better than Jason Garrett. That's what
True.
that's where I'm.
That
going
is true.
with it.
Yeah, that is true.
They're an awesome team. They're a
couldn't
playoff
get
level
worse.
team, and he's better than Jason Garrett. So that's where I'll end that.
The Rule contract really sticks out to me, right? Because normally when you bring in a new head coach, it's usually 3 to 5 year contract that they get. He got 7 years.
Yeah.
What is now the standard moving forward for new coaches as far as what their demands are for an NFL franchise?
You're gonna find out with that Browns contract.
Yeah, that's gonna be the real
I
telling
think at
one.
the time, that was the demand of the market.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was clear to whoever in Carolina that the Giants also wanted him.
Mm-hmm.
So it created a situation where they had to overbid and overpay him.
That's a good
Oh,
point.
Rule
yeah.
had all the leverage by
Yeah.
far in that negotiation. And then the
right,
other,
right after he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna stay at Baylor," and then like 2 weeks later, he's like, "No, never mind."
And then the other interesting thing to me is that Ron Rivera, great coach. I have no issues with it. It's probably my favorite hire of everything that's taken place. The one stat I find interesting about Ron Rivera in his career is he's only had 2 winning seasons as a head football coach. Two winning seasons.
How long has he coached?
Long time.
Yeah,
Long time.
But
That's interesting.
the benefit that I think can't be overstated enough, they got Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio. They didn't just get Ron Rivera. Jack Del Rio is their defensive coordinator. Jack
I
Del
like
Rio,
that. I like
Jack
that.
Del Rio is a pretty good head coach.
Yeah.
You know, he was doing a pretty good job in Oakland before they thought they could get Gruden back. We're basically just like, you're fired because we can get Gruden back.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Interesting.
so it's almost like if you look at the hires not just as the head coach, because it's not just that. You look at who they get. You almost have to go, okay, well, Rule doesn't have anybody yet, but Ron Rivera comes packaged with Jack Del Rio apparently. And then you go, Joe Judge is going to come packaged apparently with Jason Garrett.
Yeah, I
and
guess so.
And Mike McCarthy is coming packaged with Nolan. So it's just one of those things where if you start analyzing the coaching staffs, then it becomes a whole nother conversation.
Jason Garrett could also be the Cleveland Browns head coach.
That's true. That's
The clap could be coming to Cleveland.
come on. Yeah, I'm interested to see where Cleveland goes. I think they have some options if they give the keys to the Patriots offensive coordinator. I mean McDaniels. I think Cleveland. I don't know. I think Cleveland didn't they fire their GM?
Yeah, GM's gone too.
So I mean,
I'm pretty
there's that opportunity. Yeah.
I think we're
Go ahead.
I think we're pretty excited just as Browns fans.
Yes.
To going into our second official year.
Yep,
Our
second
first
year
one,
as
we
Browns
had
fans.
much higher hopes for
It's the
what we were
third
going into.
official year.
Well, okay.
Yeah, we'll round it 3.
Yeah.
But it is we were definitely regretting choosing to cheer for the Browns during this season.
They still got a lot of players I like.
Myles Garrett.
Here's the thing with the Josh McDaniels. Everyone's interviewing him. Oh, he's going to go head coach. He turned down the Colts with Andrew Luck.
Yeah. No, he agreed, and then he's like, eh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I'm
You're
very happy that he should lose out on opportunities. Because
So
of that.
my whole thing is, I thought, and I still think, the reason he bailed on Indy, which worked out for them too, was because the Patriots made him an offer of coach in waiting kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't see
doesn't seem
him
that way
turning
anymore.
down Andrew Luck in his prime for Baker Mayfield and the Browns.
Yeah.
That's what I'm struggling
dysfunction,
with.
yeah.
So like everyone's like, where's Josh McDaniels? I still think he's with the Patriots next year.
Plus, Bill was with the Browns, and McDaniels trusts Belichick's judgment and stuff like that. Like he wanted to be like, you don't want to go to Cleveland.
I think he's interviewing because it's what you're supposed to do. I think when the dust settles, he'll stay. I actually am pro the Browns hiring Eric Bieniemy. I think young, new, offensive-minded coach, Kansas City system. I know Eric Bieniemy's not the play caller. Andy Reid's a play caller, but there's a lot of good. You look at Chicago, but the track record of Andy Reid coaches is actually a lot better than some
I can see it working out. For the anti-Pats fans out there, though, if McDaniels goes away, Patriots basically have no staff, little to no staff.
Yeah.
And that's
It's
like
ravaged.
the final nail in the coffin for the finish that everybody wants.
Charlie Weiss will come back as offensive coordinator.
So the coaching stuff, I think we're talking. Can we transition just for a little bit into the Tom Brady saga?
Oh, how
Yeah.
just this past week, right before they lost, even though like Titans were awesome.
Yeah.
But for everybody to be like, he's retiring. And then
Yeah.
it's like, where is this coming from?
Here's the thing: is I
Yeah.
do think the Titans are a good team, and I think,
Agreed.
but I think their style of offense is devastating to the Patriots because I think the Patriots are soft. In
Derrick
the middle.
Henry was awesome.
Yeah.
They
They
just
don't have
attack the edges
But
and
they
run
don't have,
against
and the
them.
Patriots. This was the thing about the Patriots all year, and I said it. They weren't as good as their record dictated. Everyone talked about these other teams where Dallas is only playing bad teams, and this team is only playing bad teams, and they're better because they're San Francisco's only played bad teams, and the Patriots never really got it. The Patriots didn't beat a winning team. I mean, the Cowboys technically, when they beat them, they were terrible. I legitimately think the Patriots weren't that good this year.
Yeah,
despite their
I
record.
felt like they were slightly better than the Cowboys.
That's fine because the Cowboys were terrible, but their record, everyone was so high on their record and they didn't get a bye. Their defense, their secondary was awesome. Their run defense was terrible.
Yep.
And everyone wants to say, oh, Brady had no weapons. Brady had no weapons. Really? Because after the Super Bowl last year, Julian Edelman was one of the top 10 receivers of all time.
But everybody else
Wasn't that a thing?
thing?
True.
Wasn't that a
It's true.
thing?
Yeah.
You know? And all these guys, just because you remove Gronk, like he had a good amount of weapons. He couldn't get the ball there.
Losing Gronk was, I think,
Huge.
But I agree with you. But your team does nothing to replace him. And there were a lot of throws that he's just missing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of throws where guys aren't open, but there's also a lot of throws where it's in the ground to not Tom Brady-esque throws. So I just think Tom Brady, I definitely think he'll be back with the Patriots. I think it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like I think it's always been that. I think it's Tom Brady and the Patriots. I think Robert Kraft has a hard on for him. He's gonna
Edelman was just double teamed, and then once
wasn't-
Edelman
he
was
wasn't
double
always
teamed,
double-teamed.
no, in the second half of the season, teams were double teaming him a significant amount, and they couldn't do anything else. They had no other weapons getting anything done.
Do you know what Ryan Tannehill's stat line was for that Tennessee Titans?
8 for 15, 72 yards and an interception.
Boom. Yeah.
Yep.
And a touchdown.
And a touchdown.
Yeah.
Excuse
And
me.
I
8
could
for
run you
15.
and I could run you a film where all we talked about was Tom Brady. Oh, no one's open. I could run you a film where there was at least 10 throws that he just missed open guys.
Oh yeah, I'm not denying he's declined.
And I just it makes me laugh when you talk about all these other guys that got older and it was they're done, get him out of here. Peyton, Brett Favre, people everyone loved. And Tom Brady, he doesn't have any weapons. And I'm like, all right, well he's got Sony Michel and Rex Burkhead and White in the backfield.
I don't know if those are weapons.
But why? But why? Because they're not good because Tom Brady can't get on the ball? Because everyone loved Sony Michel last year.
Yeah, I don't know. Michelle to me is
But this is what
panning
I
out
don't
to
get.
best.
This is
James
what
White is good.
This is what I don't get is why it's all the weapons' fault. Like, why is Mohamed Sanu good in Atlanta?
It's
And then,
not all.
he's a
No,
subpar
it's
guy.
not.
It's
It's
not
not
all.
all.
It's not
Yeah,
all.
yeah. That does seem to be the perception, but like
That's
Sanu is a
definitely
good
the-
player.
that's my
like,
point.
Yeah.
So you have Sanu, you have Jacoby Brissett.
Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby Myers, who you chose. You have Julian Edelman, Watson, who's your choice for replacing.
Yeah, but
And
the missing link.
Harry.
The missing link is Gronk. I'm telling you.
With Brady,
I don't disagree. I'm just saying that's
yeah.
not fair to be like he gets a pass. There's
I'm not
plenty
saying
of
he
weapons.
gets a pass,
A lot of people are.
Yeah.
but his decline and combined with receivers not doing well outside of Edelman's double teams, you're not going to get results, and it showed this year. It really showed.
Yeah, the separation wasn't there in the second half of the year, and and I mean the other thing too is, and Dan brought this up at the beginning of the year, is the Pats won a lot of games at the beginning of the year, and Dan is like, who did they beat?
It was
Their
the same
team
thing
wasn't that
as the
good.
Cowboys
I mean,
schedule.
their
Same
defense,
thing.
their defense was good. Their defense was very, very good. But once they started facing real teams, they got lit up. So
And I just think it's one of those things where Brady did make it really far. I mean, he's what? How old is he? 42?
43.
43.
He'll be 43 next season.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is one of those things where
He's too hyper competitive. Probably he probably should retire.
it's
Like it seems like he might be addicted.
everybody. Yeah, I mean, if you
Probably,
could
yeah.
play, you want to keep playing. I mean, it's proof. Every quarterback wants to keep playing. Every player
course,
wants to
yeah.
keep playing. It's just not there anymore.
He wants
This
to end on
happens.
top, and
You got to 43. Brett Favre didn't make it that far, and he was the
Yeah.
most durable quarterback ever. Peyton had the neck injury, and he didn't make it that
he
far.
wants all the records. It's very
Yeah,
self-serving.
At this point, he's
Yeah.
not going to catch Drew
No.
for the touchdowns
'Cause-
because Drew is actually still throwing touchdowns
younger.
and he's got Mike. That talk about weapons.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
no.
that team is.
They just are
Muscle Thomas.
terrible in the playoffs.
Yeah. No, they get screwed in the
It's
playoffs.
pretty funny. But I'm very intrigued by the Brady thing because I feel like we went through this 2 years ago before he signed the most recent contract, where it was, oh man, there's a falling out, and he's what's it now? He put his house on the market. Who's his trainer friend, the T12 guy?
Yeah.
He sold his house. He made that comment where he's not done, but a new da-da-da-da on Twitter today. It's interesting from a Patriots fan. Do you think he'll be somewhere else, or do you think he'll be
Yeah,
with the
I'm kinda
Patriots?
curious to hear
I think
that,
he'll be
too.
with the Patriots. I just think Robert Kraft, when push comes to shove, Robert Kraft will be like, I need to have Tom Brady stay.
Yeah.
So like money, I don't think is the issue because even teams can pay them through the other organizations
And
that
their
they
cap
haven't
is
shit.
not that bad.
So like
And he doesn't need the money.
right. So like he'll only stay there if the offense improves significantly in the offseason and Bill's still going to be there. Otherwise, he's going to either go play somewhere else. Like where would he go to play?
I heard the Chargers.
I just
think the
don't
NFL
like-
wants the Chargers because of how bad the situation is in LA.
as a
right
Pats,
now.
if I was the Pats organization, I would want to move on.
And this is the thing is, I totally agree with
Start
you.
your rebuild.
I think everybody wants these quarterbacks and romanticize, and they're going to retire, and it always ends the same way. They always get old and go somewhere else, and it doesn't get any better. The only one that got better was Brett for like 2 years. Well, I mean Peyton too, but even then,
Peyton was terrible, but that defense was
That
great.
defense.
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean even that when what I'm saying is that when he went to another team, he
Oh,
was
like
sick.
immediately, yes.
Like
Yeah,
he was,
yeah,
him
yeah.
and Brett
Yeah.
were sick for a couple of years. Usually it's Johnny Unitas on the Chargers. It's
Yeah.
not
Joe
it's
Montana on
not
the
a-
Chiefs.
But they
Joe
also
Montana was good for a while.
Yeah, but they also
But it's-
moved when they were younger than Brady.
Brady's. I think if
moving at
Brady goes somewhere
43.
else, like it was funny to me on his Twitter thing today. He said, "I still have a lot to prove." Dude, what?
Yeah, I agree.
Actually,
I agree.
this can be a thing where if Brady goes somewhere else and Belichick stays in New England, if one of those two can win a Super Bowl, like that would be answering the argument that people
Yeah.
want to make is,
Yep.
oh, they always
Was
had
it Brady
each
or
other.
was it Belichick?
Yeah.
Here's going to be
I
the
can answer that real fast. It was Belichick.
Oh yeah, it was. But
I think Tom
I'm
Brady's
just
one of the
saying-
better quarterbacks of all time, and I think it's a pairing. But Bill Belichick's the reason they won multiple Super Bowls.
Here's going to be the interesting thing for the Pats in the offseason, right? Aside from Stephon Gilmore, who have they really paid top dollar to
Yeah, their
out in
cap
the
is
free
fine.
agent market? No, in general, in the Patriots' history.
They don't do that though.
Yeah.
I mean, the Randy Moss was the big one. Antonio Brown was roughly this year, and it didn't
All
work.
acquired on trades, though, in that they gave up minimal assets for a fourth-round pick, a third-round
Well, what are you
pick.
saying? What are they
So,
going to? I don't understand.
are
what
they
your
going to
question was.
open the checkbook for the top talent that's out there? in
AJ
free agent
Green.
that's out there to make.
You wouldn't have to
push
open the
it.
checkbook for that.
Yeah, I think he'll still get paid.
I think he'll still get 10, 12 million.
Yeah, and this is going back to the Brady thing. I think they'll lock up Brady because they have that space, and they don't typically do that, and they don't have a quarterback if they get rid of Brady.
Yeah.
This is the thing: is everyone
Jarrett Stidham.
Oh man, is Brady going to go?
You know who it's gonna be.
terrible.
You know who it's gonna be. Josh Rosen.
It might be.
Jim's fantasy.
I actually think.
we would be so happy.
Yes.
if
Oh,
he-
The
yeah,
first part of my
absolutely.
prediction came true today because Jake Fromm declared for the draft. I think it's Jake Fromm. I think Jake Fromm was a top 10 before the season started. He had a rough year this year at Georgia, and I think he drops to the Patriots and they take him. in the
And
first
there's
round.
not a lot of QB needy teams coming out. Plus, you're gonna have like Teddy Bridgewater out there.
Maybe Teddy Bridgewater is the answer for the Pats.
I think Teddy stays in.
New Orleans. I think he's going to start somewhere though. I think there's a team that'll pay him.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. I mean, that's a story for another day. I just wanted to get the take on Brady because I feel like this was the same conversation 2 years ago when his contract lapsed.
Yeah.
And
Newton.
Yeah.
3 years later,
Maybe
he
he's
has
the
another
Patriots
Super Bowl
answer.
And,
I'm kind of interested to see what the where the Patriots go
Well, I
if
mean,
it's
look
not
at-
Tom
I mean,
Brady.
there are other teams too, like Chicago and a couple, and even the Colts.
Yep.
That need to figure out if
What
they
they're doing.
can't. They're not high enough in the draft to get one of those elite quarterbacks. Do we find a diamond in the rough like Russell Wilson or Dak, or do we go out and get one of these four guys?
Sorry. It's just like the Russell Wilson and Russell Wilson and Dak in the same sentence.
Dak's that 5th round pick. That you're telling me he's not good for a 5th round pick?
No, I think we're just judging them as quarterbacks in general. Like, if you had to pick one for your team, it's like, should I take Russell Wilson or Dak? And it's kind of like, I don't know. Like, they're not very close.
I
to
think
each
you were
other.
saying something
And-
else, and we were taking.
Yeah.
But that's how people always react to the Cowboys. That's being a Cowboys fan. I get it. Dak's terrible, you guys.
No, it's more Russell Wilson is insane. Yeah. But I get what you're saying late. You're
I'm saying if
a
you're
late
going to
draft
find
pick.
a starting quarterback late in the draft,
Yes.
or do you go out and get one of these guys that's going to be available? Because, like we just said, there's going to be 3 to 4 legitimate quarterbacks on the market. One of them may be Tom Brady. But
Because we're looking at Tom Brady.
Teddy
Let's just say
Bridgewater.
Tom Brady, Bridgewater, Phillip Rivers, Cam.
Yeah.
And then on top of that,
I mean, there'll probably be some others that we're just
Legacy
forgetting,
contracts.
You know? A couple other guys that
Rosen.
we're not thinking. Rosen that might get another chance if they play their way into a job, kind of thing.
Maybe Dak plays for the Patriots. and
Mariota's
Rosen goes to
Mariota's
Dallas.
out there. Mariota's out there still. And then,
Could you imagine?
you know,
Jameis, who knows if they're all done?
That's right. Jameis is a free agent. There's a lot of available quarterbacks. So I mean, there.
this is literally the point I'm trying
Yeah,
to
yeah,
make.
yeah.
Is you guys talk negatively about the Cowboys.
Well, but but you were saying that there. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't you, but someone was saying that there weren't that many quarterback needy teams. There's a
forget
good
about
chance that a lot of them
Andy
will be quarterback needy based on free agency.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quarterback. I don't think there's a ton of quarterback needy teams. Technically, it depends on
Who signs who?
yeah.
It's
so-
free agency.
and it
is gonna
depends
be the
on
big-
what teams choose to do. I mean, you have
Right.
three teams that we just talked about: Chicago, Tennessee, and Tampa Bay.
and Dallas. Assuming
Let's assume they're going to sign that.
probably, but
I'm going to take those
yeah.
three teams. Do they re-sign their quarterbacks? Those 3 teams.
Yeah, I don't know.
they
gotta
already said
re-sign-
Trubisky's coming back.
Trubisky's coming back. Tannehill's probably going to. They're probably
I
going to
can
re-sign
see
Tannehill.
Jameis actually
And
coming
Jameis,
back.
but Jameis wants over $30 million.
He does throw a lot of touchdowns.
I mean, crab legs
And
are expensive in Tampa.
So it's one of those things where I think you have to wait for dominoes to fall to find out how many quarterback needy teams are out there. Even Phillip Rivers,
Yeah.
where Phillip Rivers will move on. Man, he's been in that city for like 17 years. There's a good chance he
Yeah.
stays and just they try to grind.
And
out
he's been
one
good
more
every
time.
single year except for this year.
Yeah, so
And he still threw a lot for a lot of yards.
I'm saying, like, I might have said that at a different podcast. It could still be true if all of a
Yeah.
sudden, if the dominoes fall and Tampa Bay, Tennessee, Chicago, San Diego, and New England all keep their quarterbacks,
Yeah.
then there aren't that many. Then there's,
Yeah.
but if they all choose to move on, those 5 guys got to find a new home, and those 5
Right.
teams all need quarterbacks. So all of a sudden, there are a bunch of needs.
And Kirk Cousins is a free agent again.
I think he played himself into another contract.
I
With
think so
that
too.
game.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I think a lot of those quarterbacks are leaving teams, but if they change teams, they're going to be going to another team, so they're going to stay starters. Like Kirk Cousins is going to start. Jameis Winston will probably start. Dak is definitely going to start somewhere. Like there's like certain people that maybe they don't end up on the same team, but they're going to end up somewhere, so filling the same gap that there would be.
I think there's some guys too. I like Tannehill. He's not a starter, quarterback.
He'll start next year.
But he played himself into a job,
Yeah.
and he'll be Tennessee starting quarterback.
Yeah.
But then you have Mariota. Where does Mariota go? Is he a backup or is he a starter? Does somebody want to give him a starter?
Yeah, that's true.
Because he wasn't terrible, you know.
Or Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, apparently.
Tyrod might be the bridge quarterback in the Chargers until they find their next
he's
guy.
not. He's done. He's not. He's not.
That's
Who was the rookie that they took on? They might have already let him go. The Chargers this past year.
Oh, I don't know.
There was some
I don't
rookie.
know.
He was like some speedster.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's some teams out there. Denver. Does Denver want to take another quarterback, or do they want to go? Okay, we're going to see what a full
I think they're committed to
season
Drew Lock.
of Drew Lock is going to
Yeah.
do. And then did they go out and go, all right, well, if we have Drew Lock, we're going to get a Mariota and or a Jameis Winston as a backup /
Yeah.
if he doesn't work out, starter. So I think you're going to have a couple of those situations where, you know, depending on, I'm just saying, I think there is still a big chance that there are a lot of quarterback needy teams, or there are not.
Yeah.
Depending on where contracts get signed.
Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to sign for the veteran minimum in Denver and back up Drew Lock.
I think Fitzpatrick.
Start
I think,
somewhere, man.
I think it's almost a guarantee that Ryan Fitzpatrick will stay in Miami,
And
they will take Tua. Tua will slow play Tua because of his injury,
Yeah.
and Ryan Fitzpatrick will start next year.
Yeah.
I feel like that. I feel
and
like
he'll
that's
throw
a
like
slam dunk.
5,000 yards.
I feel like
Yeah.
that's like a slam dunk. They everywhere he goes, they love him. You know, they had a really good, season this
mid-ended
year.
season,
I
yeah.
mean, they're 4-win, but I mean, talk about Brian Flores should get Coach of the Year, in my opinion.
I was so blown away by what Flores has done in Miami.
They
did everything to lose, and they still ended up.
And he just and you know what's really funny is, and they're still probably going to get Tua. All the talk was that they lose to get Tua and tank for Tua.
Yeah.
And they didn't, and they fought, and they screwed up the Patriots season, and they played their hearts out for Flores. He got the most out of the team, got a ton of draft capital.
Yeah.
And they're probably still going to get Tua.
He started
re-sign
to build a good
Fitzpatrick,
culture, too.
and you're getting a much better culture. And I think in 2 or 3 years,
They got 2 first rounds this year, maybe 3 next year. Yeah.
So I think he'll be back there, and they're going to slow play this game. Like, I don't think they're in it for the short term and like, we'll win now. Seeing what you got out of Flores and out of that team this year, you go, all right, what do you want to do? And I think he'll be like, we'll keep Fitzpatrick, we'll bring in Tua, let Tua get healthy.
Trade Josh Rosen.
Get rid of Josh. Well, he's
To
on
the
that,
Patriots.
Do we want to turn in our Browns jerseys for Miami Dolphins jerseys?
No, we're good on the Browns.
Stay.
We're
You
good
gotta
on the
stay.
Browns.
I love the Browns. I do think Freddie Kitchens was a horse garbage.
That was
He
a terrible move.
A horrible coach. It cracks me up to hear after the season. I also think second year slump. Like, I have never seen a second year slump of that magnitude. Baker Mayfield was flat out horrible.
The offensive play calling was terrible.
And did you hear the story where the offensive coordinator before the games, when he was talking to coaches on other teams, was basically telling those coaches how much of a mess their team was and how bad they were in the locker room? Like, it was so misrun.
Yeah.
That's why I think when
Classic Cleveland Browns.
and that's the thing is, and that's we got to get ready because that's what being a Cleveland fan is.
So
When Jarvis Landry's saying trade me to opposing teams before and after the game, trade for me.
And I think that was one of the things is so many people want to go black and white and go, oh, they want to be out of there, and it's not. It's if culture continues like this, yes, I want to be out of here. But if you can turn it around, we do want to be here.
Yeah.
We want to be in Cleveland. Like Jarvis and Odell both kind of said something to that effect, whereas people are like, oh, we heard you want out of Cleveland. And it's not yes or no. It's yes, but if you can change the culture and get me a good head coach, then yeah. But if I'm Jarvis Landry and I get here and Hugh Jackson is my coach, and then Freddie Kitchens is my coach, and who's the guy,
So
I want out
and
of
the
there
culture's
too.
not building the way you want. Yeah, you want to
So
get out.
who's the coach that turns that around then?
I think it's Bieniemy just because he's an Andy Reid product. And think about it, Pedersen, what's his name in Chicago, like those guys turned cultures around. Not that Philly's culture was bad or Chicago's culture was bad, but it rekindled what was great about an old franchise.
Yeah.
That's what they need. So who's the next Andy Reid guy? It's Eric Bieniemy.
I think Urban's getting all the money to go there.
10-year contract.
Yeah, and I don't even dislike that hire either. I think I don't love Lincoln Riley, but Urban Meyer was phenomenal in college, and the whole time he was in college, it was a drain on his health, quote unquote, and he couldn't do it. And the NFL is a much less of a drain on your time and resources, so he might even be better as a pro coach.
I would also take Rex Ryan as the Cleveland Browns head coach.
Oh man,
I love Rex Ryan. He's awesome.
that would be great. That would be great.
Can we get Rex and Rob Ryan on the sidelines together?
I think Rex has
that would
found
be
his.
awesome.
I think Rex has found his life as
An analyst.
Yeah.
I also think so. Here's my other thought, and it could be the total, steal of the century. If the Browns slow play enough, everyone rush out to get these coaches. Like I think Ross, you're saying it before, how these teams that have coaches that go late into the season, it's not fair to them because they, everyone else is getting these coaches up. So if you're Cleveland at this point and you go, all right, we're the last team, we're not going to hire anybody until the postseason, and then we get all the Ravens offensive and defense coordinators.
Yep.
We get all the 49ers, like all those guys.
You get all the interviews.
Wink Martindale, who's the defensive coordinator? Robert Saleh, all those guys that were hot coaching prospects, no one took.
Yeah.
Because they're all still in the playoffs. So if you're the
Yeah.
Browns at this point, do you just wait and go, we'll just take the cream of the crop, the best coach from the cream of the crop of the NFL?
That's why I think it's so weird that these teams jumped. And I think it all started, the dominoes started fall when Ron Rivera signed early for a team, and people are like, crap, we need to go get somebody somewhere. Like,
So this is where, once again, and I don't mean to pick on the Giants, I think when it went down, I think the Redskins got who they wanted and then got Ron Rivera, right?
yeah.
And then I think the Carolina got a high-end, what we believe to be a high-end college coach, so they got that they wanted.
Yeah.
Dallas apparently got what they wanted because they wanted another puppet. So you really go, okay, well then what team didn't get what they wanted?
Yeah.
And you would have to say it was the Giants.
Right.
So they should have waited.
Right.
And I think you should have waited, and you could have, like I said, in my opinion, the 3 best coaching candidates going into the offseason, not counting college coaches, were Wink Martindale, Eric Bieniemy, and say it again, the 49ers.
Robert Saleh.
Thank you. Those 3, and 2 of them don't have jobs. And I think going out and getting something like Joe Judge is high risk, high reward, but like there were better people out there. So I think if you're the Browns now, I think the best thing you can do is go, all right, everyone else is done. We want to not sign anybody, especially right after that Carolina contract.
Yeah.
We're going to wait as long so everyone can forget how much Matt Rule just got paid.
Yeah.
And then when the Super Bowl's over, we're going to go interview Wink Martindale. We're going to go interview, because if you think about it, like that system that Wink Martindale did for Lamar Jackson, like that's what I want to run.
Nobody's talking about Greg Roman again. Greg Roman's name's been thrown out as Baltimore's offensive coordinator, and I know you need a specific system usually to run with his, as far as like that Colin Kaepernick-esque quarterback. But like,
well, that's what I'm saying is if you get Wink Martindale and he can turn your defense around, because that's what they really need,
right?
And then he has any semblance of how that offense works.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you get both of them if you just get their offensive and defensive coordinators, co-coaches, both the Ravens offensive. That'd be sick. I'm just saying, I would take either of the. I would prefer their defensive coordinator just because their defense is constantly good, and their defensive coordinator has been a good hire at other places all the time. But I totally agree with that one also. But Robert Saleh, there's a ton of good coaches out there.
Wasn't the rumor with Martindale, like his offensive coordinator he would bring in would be Joe Brady, the LSU passing game coordinator?
Yes, I've heard that. It's awesome. Like that's I love that to be. Wing Martindale's
7 touchdowns in the first half.
Yeah, Joe Burrow. That's another podcast altogether.
that was insane watching that.
So if we look to the future for our league for fantasy, who are the 6 teams we're seeing leading into next year as playoff teams?
Me, Treb.
I mean,
Dane shouldn't go. In my opinion, Dane potentially shouldn't go anywhere for another year or 2.
Yeah, he's still probably
and he's still
there.
there.
Top.
The only question is with
so that's the elite 4
going top to bottom. So Dane won. So let's acknowledge Dane's teams first. Going top to bottom, Dane's team will have questions, but if the questions work out, he'll be good for another 1 or 2 years. It's just a question of AJ Green, Julio Jones, Todd Gurley, right? Even Carson Wentz. You know, those 4 players are all injury prone. Carson Wentz isn't older, but those other guys, what are they? We don't even know now. If it works out badly, he's still got Derrick Henry and Saquon, but even Derrick Henry.
He has Chris Carson too.
Yeah, he's got a good team. But the receivers were shallow past there, so but I still think he's good with questions. I think Shane's team is good, but overperformed a bit this year. I mean, 12-1.
Christian McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey. Going forward, whatever they do, he's still there. I personally think me and Trebs have the best teams to grow upon because there's the best young talent.
Well, how much draft capital do you 2 have? I mean,
we both have a decent amount.
And how many in the first?
We both have 3 picks in the first.
So I mean, and some of those early picks are gonna, they're gonna come and they're like the running backs. I think in the top 6 picks of the draft, top around there, those first 3 or 4 running backs are gonna move into a starting position immediately and produce. So like, I mean, think about Zeke when he first came in.
No, I agree with you. I don't think anybody in the draft this year is of the level of Zeke, Saquon, Gurley.
I mean, as a specific one.
It would depend on the fit. It would depend on the fit. But if you go the 4 running backs who are there, which are the 4 that I think we can all acknowledge, like even if one gets a good situation, like they're not going to get 4 guys that are all going to start. It's not going to happen.
I don't know. I mean, which draft picks do you have?
I have 3, 4, and 5.
He has 3, 4, and 5, and you have
1, 8, and 10. 1, 8, and 10.
Yeah. So I mean,
I think you're totally romanticizing draft picks in fantasy.
Not this year. This year is we're back to like that the Odell Beckham year, where it's just like
it's a strong class this year.
But there's not enough. There's only 30 teams, and a lot of them have starting running backs. They'll get into committees, and I don't know where you think these guys are all going to go. If you look at mock drafts, a lot of these guys aren't even going until the 2nd round anyway, 3rd round anyway. They're not going to immediately jump into starting positions.
We'll see.
I
disagree, but
right, me and Trevor are going to bet on this after the podcast. We'll let you know what the terms are on the next podcast.
All right, deal.
But so separate
I also
from draft,
and I don't know how much they'll produce right away.
Separate from how our draft goes, right? What other teams are still positioned decently is the question.
I'm just going to put Markov out there because Markov's Markov, and he makes his way in the playoffs in some Weasley way.
I mean, I think the good thing about our league is I think he gets muddy in the middle.
You got Babetsky.
Yeah.
He's in the finals.
Yeah.
He was in the finals.
So Babetsky should be there.
He has a good team. And like if you look at the points scored like during the regular season, like Babetsky was right there. I mean he's a great fantasy owner. He knows what he's doing. He drafts well.
And I think Betancourt had Alvin Kamara who had a down year, but
his team's...
I think next year with Drew getting a year older, they'll try to get back to Kamara a lot more. So I think that's a nice one.
Long term, I worry about Betancourt because he doesn't have any firsts the next 2 years.
Yeah, but he has Devontae Freeman, Alvin Kamara, who will both perform next year. I think Freeman still has a contract there.
Yeah, I think so.
But he was when he played. But look at it. It doesn't matter if you like him. If you look at his stats and how much target share he gets when he plays, it's like top 5. Amari Cooper, Devontae Adams, Devin Singletary, Devontae Parker, Brandon Cooks.
Amari Cooper's question mark is if he ends up back in Dallas, you love him, but if he ends up somewhere,
he'll end up being a top 12, top 15 receiver.
The other
wherever
side
he goes.
of this too, Adamus has got the second overall pick, and I
like Adamus's team.
I like where his team is.
It's a lot of young guys that have to perform though, that have to start turning into pieces. But I think that's a couple of teams. I think it's Adamus. I think it's you guys is getting more out of these young players. Right. Like you want out of Miles Sanders, you want what you got out of the last 5 weeks. You need that all year.
Yeah. Adamus is lacking receivers still.
Yeah,
he didn't fix that.
He'll be taking a receiver at 2 probably.
Probably, yeah. I don't know. I mean, he still has. I mean, his running backs are not terrible.
Unless Ross takes a receiver.
No, I don't think so.
It'll be interesting. But that's the thing is, I like our league right now because I think we have a couple at the top who also have holes. I don't think anyone's team is like totally like. I think a year or two ago into this year, we would all be like, "Oh, Dane's team had no holes," especially when he had Wentz and all those running backs and the two. It's just they're injury prone. Now everyone at the top has some question marks, either 1 or 2, or even me and Trev. I think we acknowledge like I still need another receiver and depth at defense. I lost basically because I had no depth at defense and I had like 3 injuries, and all of a sudden I'm picking up linebackers on waivers.
It just goes to show the turnover.
Trev needs Lamar Jackson to perform another year consistently without getting injured, kind of thing. And you guys, and then in the middle, it gets really muddy. And even the teams that aren't good. I mean, other than, unfortunately for Shram, that team's terrible. But you guys could definitely, if you start getting that stuff out of those guys, those young guys, I mean, the sky's the limit for you guys. Even Trev, like, guys that didn't perform, Mixon did not any...
I think the pieces I got
you could get a lot more out there if they have
helped a lot, too. I think the pieces I got from Jim and I's
Ross is just trying to rub in the
overtime. I mean, the problem with Pete's team is it's
first pick this year.
That's the big problem because like you name some of the players on the team, Geis could end up being good. Tyler Lockett, Michael Gallup, Evan Engram, Sterling Shepard. Those are like reasonable assets. That like obviously it's all Giants because
and AJ Brown.
Yeah, and AJ Brown. Yeah, who's now like his value.
If he could turn it quickly and get draft picks this year,
right
out of those, that's what would be the best thing is if he could trade some of those players and get draft picks back now because this is an offensive draft.
Right.
Next year's is not quite as offensive, so I think Trevor Lawrence, which is phenomenal. But he seems like he's going to get caught and he's not going to be able to make enough moves. Maybe he will. But yeah, he has some assets. I don't know if they'll put together a reasonable fantasy team. I think you should trade them all for parts and try to get as many draft picks as you can and start fresh. Other than like a few select players.
And he's going to hold on to his first. I'm almost certain. Like that's.
Yeah.
If you're in that hard of a rebuild, like it's projected a top 4 pick next in 2021 draft. So it's like you really want somebody to either drastically overpay or you got to hold on to that thing.
Right? And I think the goal too is with him coming in, which I think we should enjoy, is it's not going to be an absentee. He's going to commit to that build. And he's going to go, I'm not going to be good for 2 years, but I'm going to put a roster out there and try to be active in the trade market, which will be good. And you never know. This is the whole thing is, and I don't mean this in a mean way, Trev's team was okay. And then you get Lamar Jackson in the 5th round, and your team is one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
It happens.
That's all it takes sometimes.
So do I think that quarterback is here? No, maybe not. But I mean, if he gets, what if he takes, Love, or the quarterback Love out of Stanford, and all of a sudden he's better than anyone ever thought he could be.
Oh, Utah State.
Yeah, sorry, what did I say, Stanford?
Yeah.
I always think that because of
Bryce.
Bryce. But like, you never know, So that's what he needs is to turn it around exponentially faster. He'll need to hit on something, but he's just gotta put his nose to the grindstone and just go for it.
So you guys are calling the finals next year? Is that
first,
where
Trip.
this is? This is where it's going?
And I crush Trip.
Yeah, right. Not even close.
I do. And I know it's biased, and he's a good friend. I think our teams are the best teams. I legitimately, going forward, think me and Trev have the best teams. I think Dane and Shane are right there.
Yeah.
The only reason I don't think Dane's team is going forward is because I don't think Derrick Henry's going to perform at this level consistently for many years.
He also has Chris Carson.
I don't think Chris Carson can perform at this level consistently for many years.
Yeah.
I think Julio Jones and AJ Green are both at the end of their lifespans. I trade him Carson Wentz because I think Carson Wentz is an injury concern. And if Jadeveon Clowney's out there, he's going to try to kill him again. So it's just one of those things where, and I do think, I think Shane seems good, and Christian McCaffrey is awesome. There's no way year to year he gets 90% of their workload.
Yeah.
Maybe for a year or two. But then I also think his team kind of overperformed. And I'm biased. I'm sure if Shane was sitting here talking, he'd say his team is the best, So
Well, you
just
do
I
have
a
the
microphone
top
in front
4
of me.
or top 5, Babetsky, Dane, Shane, and you two.
Yeah.
Like, it's between
I mean, the teams that were in the that made the playoffs, I think, are. But I mean, I think within I think you're underestimating how good some of these rookies are going to be right off the bat.
Think I am. I think you're overestimating it because you're an analytics guy and you want them to be good. But I mean, Jim with the first overall pick last year took N'Keal Harry. How'd that go?
That was not the first overall.
No, Josh Jacobs
That
was the
was with
first
the
overall
third-
pick, and he was
sorry.
good. He was just not on
And
it.
then
what
I
you're saying,
picked
there's-
Miles Sanders, and then I wanted to take Harry. But
I mean, like,
Harry was a flyer. I wasn't-
Metcalf
I wasn't-
Metcalf showed up. AJ Brown showed up. Terry
As a
McLaurin
receiver?
showed up. It was also a really weak class last year. Like people were talking about how weak it is, and people have been going crazy about this class for like 3 years now.
I liked Miles Sanders over Montgomery. That one panned out. But
Did it? You don't know that.
Devin Singletary is pretty good too.
Who called that? Come on.
Did you draft Devin Singletary?
No, that
Yeah,
was
no, you liked
remember?
Singletary.
That
You
was
did
the
like
flag
Singletary.
on the
And I
Riley Ridley trade. It was that I loved Devin Singletary, and everyone was like, "Oh, he went to FAU. There's no tape on him," and I loved his tape.
Yeah.
But I love Riley Ridley,
And
and
this
I took
is-
him, and I was like, David Henry will make it to the third.
Yeah.
And he immediately got taken after me, and I was like, damn it.
This is where eye tests too. Like, this is the crazy part. Like, when I didn't look at a ton of Singletary stuff.
I'm great at eye
But
tests.
when I looked at eye test for him, I didn't like it.
I loved him.
But it was
so,
all
like-
opportunity though. He's in Buffalo, and they were going to cut LeSean McCoy. Like,
It's just it's one of those things where you're just like,
You didn't know they were
man,
gonna cut
You know,
McCoy
I
before you
value.
drafted him.
I don't. I'm not going to say I hit
Yeah.
on all my eye tests, but
No, yeah, I mean,
I'm
and
going to
that's-
call it
there's
the ones where I
rumblings
miss.
about it.
and that's what who is it that wanted to bet me halfway through the season that David Montgomery is going to score more points than Josh Jacobs?
I'm just gonna see.
Who was
the way
that?
out right now. See you
I'm
later,
saying,
guys.
like,
It's
you
nobody
can't-
sitting at this table
you can't-
anymore.
You can't just flat and like I know you want to. Oh, he was a flyer. And N'Keal Harry was taken the first round by the New England Patriots.
No, I was good.
You think it's going to be a
was
better?
a
He's
good
bet.
also
Okay,
injured
Everyone-
for half the year too.
But you're talking
Stunts
about
your growth.
fit and situation.
Yeah.
Fit and situation is perfect in that situation,
Right.
and it didn't work.
Yeah, because of injury. Yeah.
So-
But you also
No,
tell.
not
But you
because of
also
injury
tell
alone.
us.
Injury was definitely a big.
Yeah.
But even if injury has to, you don't know which guys are going to get injured either. So these players that come out that
Of
you're like, they
course.
could be awesome.
No,
Three
of
of them could get
course.
injured.
But like I mean, to claim that the injury was non-existent.
I'm not claiming it. That was a turn of phrase. I meant to say it's not part of the story. The story is that he didn't do well this year, and part of that story is because he got injured.
Yeah, I mean he was IR until like week 10.
That can happen.
Like
with
that was
other
basically an
players,
entire.
too.
But there's-
It's basically
yeah.
an entire lost year. Is kind
Yeah.
of where
But
he's
it
at.
doesn't tell us enough on whether N'Keal was good enough. Or
All these
not.
guys we can't really have a full clear idea
was-
of until 2 or 3 years down.
Whoa. You literally just said how impactful these guys were going to be.
Running backs,
next
running
year.
backs, and they are. This is the way that the league's turning out.
But this
You know
isn't
that.
the draft class that people talked about running. This is the draft class people are talking about for receiver.
They're talking about all aspects of this
Mm-hmm.
draft class, running backs and receivers. You know that. Come on.
I don't. I think there's good running backs last year and there's good running backs this year. There's 4 to 5 good running backs. And there's 4 to 5. There wasn't as good last year. I agree with you there.
It's like Josh Jacobs, and then it was a kind of a like a drop after that.
But I just don't see. Like, I'd be intrigued to. We're not going to do it. We're not going to do it on air. But I'd be intrigued to break it down like we did quarterbacks that one time and see like how many open spots are available for running backs that are going to get in dedicated run first systems where they're the only running back. Those systems don't exist. Everyone's by committee. Even Zeke. Like I had 4 of the top 10 running backs this year, and Zeke wasn't in my top 2. You know what I mean? Like, it's very interesting. Like, I agree with you. Fit is everything. But sometimes you get in a fit that looks awesome. Joe Mixon is in a run-first system and looks great, and he was terrible.
Yeah, he still ended up as a RB1, though, in fantasy.
But also, at the same time, even if stuff misses in 1 year, it sometimes it's just 1 year. It's not like because the opportunity didn't hit in 1 year, it doesn't mean the investment for a dynasty piece is not.
I understand that, but I'm... All right, yeah, I get that, but then I don't get why, if we're talking about for people trying to turn their team around next year, that's what I'm talking about. Is that I don't think these pieces are going to perform as... I agree that a lot of them will be very good long term. I'm not saying that. I'm saying to turn teams around immediately, I don't think they're going to be the biggest part of the offenses next year.
Okay, yeah.
Running backs, I think, can, as long as the opportunities exist.
Yeah.
Other positions, no.
Yeah, wide receivers are... It takes some... I mean, there'll be a few that... I mean, I think the top receiver, if he goes to the right destination, will be...
And tight end at this point, you just close your eyes and throw a dart at the dartboard?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, David Njoku, just go to the Patriots, please.
Yeah, but it's not even David Njoku.
You were saying O.J. Howard before.
Yeah.
O.J. Howard was like... If you designed a tight end from the ground up, it was O.J.
He was
Howard.
like perfect.
And and Herb Smith,
On the best,
his backup,
on the best offense.
is better than him.
Cameron Brate's his backup. Irv Smith.
No, Herb Smith was his backup at
in
Alabama,
Alabama,
and is filthy good in Minnesota. The only one is Dallas Goedert, and your goddamn Eagles needed to steal him
Dallas
and
looks
start him
so
behind
good.
Ertz. What are they doing? He is so good. He is
Dan
meant
has
to
the
be a
best
Dallas
tight ends in the
Cowboy.
league.
He gets a lot of targets now. Yeah.
My tight ends are so... I have the most talent at tight end. They're not healthy by any means because I picked up Disley when you put him on IR.
Yeah.
So I have Austin Hooper, Disley, and Dallas Goedert. And if Dallas Goedert was on any other team, he'd be a perennial top 5 tight end.
He'll
Unless
be
he
a top
was
5
Tampa
tight
Bay.
end in 2 years.
He's a second one there, and he's like a top 15 right now. And he's so good.
He had a good end of season. Well,
He's supposed to be a Dallas Cowboy.
the Eagles also had no wide receivers. They were literally running 3 tight ends because they're like, I guess Perkins is one of our receivers
At
now.
this point, Zach Ertz doesn't block, and he should just run him as their slot, and he would be just as effective.
And they
now
do.
And that was the thing is that, and you put Dallas Goedert on the field as much as possible.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you in the sense, and I'm not going to get into team by team breakdowns. The Eagles' biggest problem was they ran low on talent, and they weren't using what they had.
I heard Ertz is changing his name to Earth.
Earth.
But yeah, I think
Dallas Goedert.
Dallas Goedert is going to be one of those ones where, like, I'll be a closet him fan just because he's supposed to be a Dallas Cowboy. He's supposed to be a Cowboy.
His name is Dallas.
His name is Dallas. It's named after the Dallas Cowboys. And if they weren't the worst run organization and they would have just shut their mouths for 2 weeks, they could have drafted him.
No, the Giants have had a history of that too. Because remember, they wanted Leonard Floyd and somebody traded up to get him. They wanted Jack Conklin and somebody traded up
But
to
there
get
is
him.
never a situation where a guy was such a fit and is named after. His name
true.
is Dallas because his parents were Dallas Cowboys fans.
If he was not on your roster, Dan, you would hate the guy so much.
Oh my God, so much.
We're talking about extreme
He's
end
so good
of hate.
He's so good. So, but Austin Hooper, I mean, I am actually of the sound, and like I said, I don't want to get into team by team breakdown. That's another podcast. The Falcons are going to have a lot of turnover, I think, this year. So I'd be intrigued. I hope Austin Hooper's got a couple more years, but
He's a free agent.
he's
Right?
a free agent. So if they're going to have to pay. I don't know if they'll pay him what another team will demand him, and then he ends up
He's
on
a little
some.
sluggish at times.
Yeah. But the good thing is I have Will Disley now, and he had a ton of touches out of Seattle before somebody dropped him.
Well, we will get back to the podcast in about a month's time. We're going to go in monthly during the off season, guys. But if
And some of
anybody,
it might be about wrestling.
yeah, we'll probably mix in a couple different things. I think one thing we should definitely do at the next one is let's look at Schramm's team and have Schramm's team be the evaluation to start.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, next one before. I mean, and then at some point before the draft, we're going to do one pre-draft and post-draft to get a full draft breakdown. Those will probably be pretty intensive, I would think.
Oh yeah, yeah. All right, we'll see you next time.
See you guys
Later.